This episode has been brought to you from the DGMS Studios, home of Don't Get Me Started, Lethal and Mully Live, and Surftown. Found at Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Hello and welcome to Don't Get Me Started. Hi, I'm Lee.
And I'm Keith.
It's a beautiful winter's day. Keith and I are in the studio. How are you, fella? I love your T-shirt.
Thank you very much. And I can see that you've had a haircut, and I think it's very befitting.
You know why I have to have a haircut, Mully?
Tell me.
Because my beautiful granddaughter said, Tandad, my school is having a grandparents' morning. I'd love you and Nanny to come along, but could you cut your hair?
You know you're in trouble, mate, when somebody down there in the family tells you that you have to tidy up.
Oh, she's a dream, mate. I'd do anything for her.
Well, what you have done for her suits you. That looks really good. So thank you for the compliment about the T-shirt.
Love it. I love the colour. By the way, it is Surftown, the podcast.
Correct. That's the other podcast that we do involving everything about surfing that we can think of or comes our way. We just did a tape this week with a very lovely young lady who's making her name in longboard surfing called Kira, which is available on the Surftown podcast, found on Spotify, Amazon and Apple, etc., which was really good. And then we spoke to Jeske Maas, who's the director of the coming Noosa International Film Festival, which will be happening next month. We spoke to her this week as well. That's not up on the platforms at the moment, but will be very soon. So all of these things is what we do on Surftown. So the T-shirt's looking pretty sharp. Moving forward, it's only a matter of time before it's available for the people who may want to purchase one.
Now, the Noosa International Surf Film Festival, which is run by Jeske, incredible lady. She organised it all. She did all the promotion. She went around the banks, the council to get the sponsorships. Amazing woman.
That's a great thing, I think, about podcasting in the different streams that we do, the people that we meet. It's just great to see that there are people who do things that live exciting lives.
Well, if you're local and you listen to us on the Sunshine Coast or Brisbane, the event starts June 19th to the 22nd. The Noosa Event Cinemas, and the after party is at House Lodge.
Yes.
It's free entry. Go, enjoy yourself, have fun. The Kira interview, I thought, was phenomenal. Keith, I know I've said it. You're the new Parky, mate. You're the new Michael Parkinson's now. The 40, 50 plus year group that would know who he is. He was a very, very successful interviewer. Keith is his clone.
Oh, no, mate, I would not accept that.
No, you are.
I thank you for your generous compliment, but there was only one Michael Parkinson. He was peerless.
Yeah, he was too. They go in the end.
Well, yeah, we all do. Anyway, listen, I would love to come in with a joke this week, but I don't have any. I've been very busy.
Thank goodness.
So, I mean, I could make a joke about your haircut, except it actually suits you.
Well, you could say, who cut your hair? You could say the council. That would be one.
And the old saying is only a week between a good and a bad haircut. So, you know, if you ever get one, just hang in there. 7 days later, you'll be back to your normal, radiant self.
Mully, what would I do without you, mate?
Probably a great deal, actually.
Now, I just want to quickly mention, last week we did tend to talk, and we didn't really get onto subject till 24 minutes into the podcast. It was my fault, and it made me think, and I had a chat with Mully through the week saying, is that a problem, do you think? And anyway, I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here, I think. So I would love the listeners just to maybe send us an email at don'tgetmestarted2024@gmail.com, all lowercase, just to say, hey, guys, no, that's great, no problem. Or, oh, yeah, I wish you would get to the end of your talking because I want to listen to your podcast. But as I said, and Keith said, I don't think it's a problem, but what do you think, Keith?
Well, first of all, I was a bit cheeky to say it was your fault because when I listened to it, it was mainly entirely mine.
Well, it was last week.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started, brother.
We do get each other started. We enjoy the informality of just having a good chat. But what I would like to say to our listeners is if you will just hang in there, eventually after about 10 minutes, we won't be raving on much more than that or ranting or just rambling or whatever we're doing. We will address the topic that is the title of the episode. But see, the other side of it is, Lee, like today, the topic that I brought in and I'd really like us to discuss is this one. Is it valid to expect others to meet your emotional needs?
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. Now, we like tackling things like that because we're men of the world. We've had experiences with life and relationships, etc. But we're not the professional people who have deep insights into the human mind from a psychological point of view. So when we tackle these topics, it's mainly from the observation of life, our own personal experience, what we've read, etc., more than what we've studied, because we really haven't studied a lot of these things.
No.
So I don't mind if because our episodes go for about 35 minutes, I don't mind if we ramble on about just whatever pops into mind or what we think is current at the time for 10, 15 minutes before we tackle this, because sometimes I think we hit good insights, but we're not here to educate people as professionals on the topics that we choose to speak about. So we're just sharing life.
And answer to your question, I think it's valid to expect others, particularly your intimate partner or your wife or husband, to meet some of your emotional needs. But I think it's crucial to understand that no one person should or can fulfill all of your emotional needs.
Oh, you're jumping straight in.
Well, yeah, it's made me think. I'm going to get into it now. I'm not going to twaddle on down the road of you and I talking. And another thing that just popped in is a healthy balance involves both individual self-fulfillment and mutual support within a relationship, because we give that a lot of thought. So I want to get into the topic now because of what I just said, instead of now rambling on. I'm going to back it up to your door now, Mully.
Well, I'm very happy to launch right into it too.
Let's go.
Like I said, I haven't got a joke, although I could probably try and pull one out of the back of my mind, but I'll spare everybody on that.
So when you're saying emotional needs, there's a lot of needs out there.
Yeah.
Any specific need or needs that you think that needs some support?
Well, obviously, what we're talking about here is the dynamics of a relationship. And there's always going to be what you receive from the other when you are in a relationship.
So you're sort of looking at love, support, understanding, connection. What other support?
Well, all those things are there. They're fundamental for a good, healthy relationship, particularly if it's a marriage, a love relationship that's cemented and is working. What I really mean by asking that question, is it valid to expect others to meet your emotional needs? Is it valid that the other in your life provides all of those for you more than you providing a lot of your emotional support for yourself?
I think you can, to a point. Very much like me, I grew up alone. I didn't have a lot of support around me, so I learned to deal with problems myself or work them out. And then it would be asking, can you help me with this? So once you get older and you realize that there are people there that will help you, you've just got to ask. I don't think you should expect it. I don't think people can read your mind and go, I think Keith needs a bit of emotional help here. I think it's important and healthy to ask for it.
Well, the more I think about this, the more I seem to see that, well, yeah, it is valid to some point, because that's why you're in a relationship. If there's love or there's appreciation there or some sort of deep emotional join, then that person, the very nature of the relationship means that some of that's going to come back to you. But why I ask the question is I think it's unhealthy if you say, I want the other in my relationship to provide most of my emotional needs.
I think when your needs are met, I think you feel more secure with yourself. I think you feel more connected and you're contented with it.
Yeah, and if you are looking for the other to provide the bulk of your emotional needs to the point that you are feeling good about whatever situation that you are in that you need to have strong emotional support for, you are in a situation where you are becoming somebody who takes more than gives. You are somebody who becomes needy. Then you don't really add to the relationship from a generous point of view, because you're always looking for something to come back to you because you want the support, or you want to be validated, or you want that emotion expressed from that other person to make you feel special, loved, or whatever. Yes. I don't think that's healthy, because as I said, you become needy, and then others will look at you and say, oh, she or he is a bottomless pit, because you all the time have to keep supporting them. You all the time have to be propping them up.
I think it's unrealistic and unhealthy for one person to expect their partner or their wife or husband to meet their emotional needs. I remember talking to a friend a long time ago, and as we get older, and we're all getting older, and I said, who's going to look after you, mate, when you get to that point where you're going to need looking after? And he goes, oh, my wife. My wife's going to take care of all my needs. And I thought thought, wow, really? You're not going to help yourself? Absolutely not. My wife's going to take care of me. Now that scared the living daylights out of me, because if she doesn't decide to, what's going to happen to him? He's going to be left alone. He's going to be distraught. He's going to be an emotional wreck.
Yeah, she could die.
Well, that's right. Yeah, she could die entirely. But his mindset, he wants to be validated by his wife on every emotional need. You've got to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to look after yourself. You're a grown-ass man. It's just not right. So, but again, it's just got to be open and honest communication, to have respect and have boundaries with one another in that. It's great to talk about it, to understand. It's nice to be loved. It's nice to be cared for, but you really have to take that, wear it for a bit, discard it, move on.
Yeah, there has to be a balance in all of this, doesn't it? Because partnerships and marriages and relationships are just that. There's more than one involved. So you have to give and you have to support and you have to have somebody's back at times. So there is a giving out. There is a giving of support to be there at emotional times or needy times, but that has to be a balance. If you're expecting others to meet your emotional needs all the time, then there's something wrong with you. And if the other person is actually doing that for you, then there's something wrong with them as well. And the relationship becomes some sort of weird codependent thing.
Oh, it's shocking, mate. It's like the expectations you have. And if you need that, place it on yourself, not on somebody else.
Yes.
And your partner can help support you emotionally.
Yes.
But to feel fulfilled and happy, content, their emotional support is still crucial, even, and this is the bit, even if they can't meet your every need.
Yes.
With my relationship, I think I have a healthy relationship with my wife because we communicate. And she knows exactly what she's doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's like I told you, unfortunately, my mother passed last month. Gemma was there. I mean, I've been saying goodbye to my mother for the last 30 years since being in Australia. And so I've been through that. And Gemma saw that. So she didn't make a big deal about it. She understood what I was saying, but she was there and she asked, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I am." Now, there'll be a lot of people that would want to be held and told, "I'm sorry and it must be tough for you." I'm not that type of person, but I appreciate them listening to what you're saying and not taking over my emotional need that I wasn't asking Gemma to do. That's the other side of it.
And another aspect of all of this is that we don't always have to have such a focus on our emotions. We don't always have to have an emotional reaction. Bruce Lee said that if you continue to suffer, or rather you will continue to suffer, if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you or happens to you. And if we do have continual emotional reaction to situations or words that are said to us, then, and we're looking for others to support us all the time, then there's something wrong. And again, see, it has to be balanced. If somebody comes along and smashes up your car, I'm angry, that's an emotional response. But there's nothing wrong with having an emotional response, but we have to be able to handle it. And what we're essentially talking about here is being responsible for your own emotional well-being and how you react emotionally to situation and people around you, and how you can do that yourself. Because ultimately, man, you're on your own. Life, you're on your own.
You came into this world alone, mate, and you'll be leaving it alone.
Yeah, like the Doors song, into this life we're thrown like a dog without a bone.
Yeah.
Riders on the storm. And, there's a real truth in that. And if you have somebody who wants to walk alongside of you through life as a partner, as a lover, as a married half, and you get a lot of emotional happiness out of that relationship that's healthy and balanced, man, you're rich and you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because looking around, I don't see too many people in those sort of relationships have actually got all of those things happening in a good, wholesome, balanced way.
It's like, should your partner meet your emotional needs? Now, psychologists and relationship experts discourage that idea of looking to a partner to fulfill your emotional needs.
Do they?
They do. And also 5 tips to fulfill your partner's emotional needs. 1, be a giver.
Ah, there you go.
Number 2, let them guide you to their emotional needs. Listen to their wants and emotional needs. Learn to ask the right questions. And then offer validation to their emotional needs. So whether you take that from a psychologist's point, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but what they're saying is that they discourage discourage the idea of looking for a partner to fulfill your need.
Well, they're the experts, and that's the answer to the question that we started with. Is it valid to expect others to meet your emotional needs?
It's not necessarily I'm going to fix it for you, but to be heard. It's like another thing they're saying is like looking to somebody else to fulfill your emotional cup will almost always lead to disappointment. We can say that with a lot of things, but emotionally, do we want a hand on our shoulder and say, it's going to be okay? Do you want an embrace to say, I'm here for you? Is that going to be enough? For me, it's just to be listened. If you can listen to what I'm saying, I'm not asking you to fix it, just listen.
You know, what comes into this is support and understanding and empathy. And I think those things are very needed in a relationship, but that's very different from being the sole provider of somebody's emotional happiness. If you are providing understanding, support, and empathy, then that relationship is good. But if you have somebody who just wants to draw from you all the time, just pulling it out of you to make them feel good about something. I remember I was first started teaching in my midlife. I didn't start teaching as a young man. I walked into this large staff room where all the teachers were, and there was one particular individual there, and this individual was always putting out that there was something wrong in their life, something that they were unhappy about, and all the others would get around and provide support. And I kind of fell into the trap of kind of providing all these encouraging words. And one of the wise old teachers is passed on now, Vic Guest, bless his heart. He's a bit of a rogue, but he did have a lot of good stuff in him. Great guy, really. And when he saw that I was starting to be falling into those that sort of fawned around this woman who was all the time sucking everybody's support and empathy, and he just kind of pulled me back and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Forget it, mate. She's a bottomless pit." And now the she could be a he. I'm not picking on,
right.
women.
I get it.
And I saw something at that point. There are some people that just are continually needy and they're bottomless pits. And it doesn't matter how much empathy, understanding, or you get alongside of them to show support, they'll just keep drawing out of you, drawing out of you, drawing out of you. And it just drains you.
So what happens when these people, their needs aren't met?
They slip into depression.
And that's the other part of it, is that if you know that, you're not really doing it to help them, you're doing it to keep them level. Where do you go with that? I hope that you're enjoying the podcast and the content that we're bringing to you each week. I want to take a moment to invite you to support the show. Your contributions help us continue creating high-quality episodes, bringing in exciting guests and exploring the topics you love. Every bit helps, whether it's a small donation or signing up for our Patreon account. By supporting us, you're not just helping keeping the lights on, you're becoming part of our community and helping us grow. To show our appreciation, we offer exclusive perks, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more for our supporters. So if you love what we do and you want to see us thrive, please consider signing up at buzzsprout.com/don't get me started. Support the show. Thank you for being part of our journey, and let's keep the conversation going.
Well, where do they go? Because if they're never going to be satisfied, and all the people that they draw in around them so that they can hear the words of sympathy and empathy and understanding and support that makes them feel valid and better about themselves, if all of that disappears, then they're just going to sink. I wonder, listening to this thinking as we go along, following Bruce Lee's words there, if you're going to react all the time emotionally for whatever situation or words that are said to you, then you're in trouble. I wonder if we are, as humans, as individuals, able to help ourselves, if we can become a lot healthier in not being so emotionally needy, not being so reactionary in expressing our emotions in situations, that we will then actually help ourselves to be a lot better with our own mental health. Because we hear so much about mental health these days, and it's like part of some people say, dude, just help yourself. Don't do that. Like step up. Now, I know that's really easy to say, but I'm sure that if we are able to work on ourselves and provide a lot of support within ourselves from ourselves, a lot of our emotional health will disappear. The bad emotional health that we're facing will disappear. And like I said, I know it's easy to say because sometimes some people are in very shitty situations and got a lot going on that's not easy to deal with.
Well, has social media got a lot to do with that?
Very likely, yeah, because of the negative images and messages they pump out all the time.
Which adds to it.
Yeah.
And all the misinformation, disinformation that they access as well. I remember as a kid, I was out the door. I was gone. I was exploring. Now, children, they're glued to a screen. It's so heartbreaking to see that. I used to grab a piece of chalk and write on the pavement. We had so much fun. Health-wise, I think it did me the world of good.
Oh, no, absolutely did. And it's not just social media. It's all that our consumerist society push out to you through social media, through television, through the radio, through peer pressure in the community. Oh, this summer, Alfred and I had wonderful holiday in Europe. And, you're sitting there and you think, oh, geez, I can't even get a caravan holiday down the coast. And there's a little sort of social pressure because these wonderful holidays that we have are almost like a consumer product that you take into your life and an expression of your status.
It's packaged up for you.
So this comes at you all the time because of our consumerist society, because we're supposed to be consumers. What if you're not? And I think we all have to not be, because we're going to be pushed around by the messages coming at us all the time. So we have to build resilience into ourselves to say, I don't care what social media is telling me. I don't care what television or other people are saying. I'm just going to be happy to be who I am. And if the only holiday I can get this summer is a camping one out the back of the bush,
You'll be happy with it.
I'm going, man. I'm going.
I think in a relationship as well, like your question, is it right that you should expect that? I think, yes, I still agree with my first answer. Yes, to a point with your wife, your partner, because you should have already built that into your relationship anyway. And as you get older, you understand more, you embrace it more. And whether you need it less, that depends on the individual. Like I said, I spoke to a friend of mine and he fully expects his wife to take care of him. I took a step back. It felt so alien to me that he can't, and he's a grown-ass man, he can't take care of himself. So where did that start? There must have been a problem some time ago that his wife had done too much. Like I keep saying with my brother in the UK, that his wife is his nurse to make sure that he's okay, he's fine. Do you need this? Is that she's thinking for him?
Well, some people marry their mother. They actually marry a woman who's the same as their mother in terms of what their mother did for them. And so some mothers, particularly with boys, they want to keep them real close because they're the mother's little babies, their little boys. And so some of the mothers actually resent their boys going off and marrying. They're joining very wholeheartedly and on every level with another woman. And a lot of mothers are very jealous of daughter-in-laws. And so a lot of men really need to metaphorically cut the umbilical cord between them and their mothers and get away from their mother's influence and start to stand up and be a man.
That's just scary.
Well, they do this. And so a lot of blokes marry women who are going to provide for them what their mother did. I know guys that don't know how to do their washing or look after their room. I know a guy used to go to his mother's place all the time when he was married, 2 or 3 times a week, because his mother would provide his favourite food, evening food. Instead of staying home and building a life with his wife 100%, 2 or 3 nights a week, he'd go, oh, hang on, love, before I come back from work, I'm going home to see Mum because she's cooking my favourite fish and chips for the night.
Well, I have got a confession.
Jeez.
When I first met my wife, I was still at home. My previous relationship failed and I moved back home. And so my mum was cooking me meals at the end of the day. And then I would go round to Gemma's place and Gemma would cook me a meal. And I didn't want to say to Mum, no, Mum, don't do it, because she's been so kind to me and so loving, I didn't want to upset her. So I was eating 2 meals. And Gemma said to me one day, you seem to be putting on weight. I'm not feeding you a lot. I'm going, well, I'm really having 2 dinners here. Funny, mate. We still laugh about it now. But I understand what you're saying. Some men don't know how to cook. Beans on toast, maybe. A soup. Now, whether that's their fault or their mum's fault or their wife's fault, I don't know. But all the men out there, you really need to start looking after yourself and guess what? Maybe looking after your wife too.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking after the other is not the same as providing all their emotional needs.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, one of his songs said, I gave her my heart, but she wanted my soul. And it's like, he's talking about past tense. So obviously the imbalance in that relationship meant that it failed at some point.
Yeah.
Don't think twice, it's all right. Walked away or it didn't work out. So supporting and giving and in a good, healthy balance is what we really should be aiming for, isn't it?
Well, that's the toughest task, balance. And you don't like that word, balance. I've said it a couple of times and he goes, I really don't like that word, balance. And in marriages, you've got to have that balance. It just makes it more healthy.
Well, you've got to have it in life. And the reason I hate it is because it's been very hard in my own life to be balanced. I've just I've done so many stupid things.
Oh, and you're carrying on to do them. That's what makes that's what makes you Mully.
Oh, well, you've got to live with the bloody consequences of it. And I had a friend said to me years ago, he said, Mully, when are you going to be mainstream? I said, what are you talking about? And then he ran past some of the things I'd done over the last 20-odd years because he's a very close friend. I've known him all my life. And I went, oh, yeah, okay, well, I don't think a lot of other people do those sort of things. Like I was in a cult once. Well, it wasn't a cult. My daughter calls it a cult. I call it a sect. Of course, it went nowhere ultimately, but, the 12 years that I was in there, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
12? It's 12 years.
It's like, what did you enjoy about it? Well, there's a lot of positives, really. But,
what was the positives?
The people that are in there with other than the leadership, of course, they always take you on it for a ride. But the others that are in there that were going along for the ride, believing in it as I was, were wonderful people. A lot of them very intelligent, very successful in business. They're lifelong friends. And also a sense of community because we had a commonality in what we believed in the vision that we're moving towards. There was a very strong sense of being in a family group environment. There was a lot of positives in that. And there's a lot of things that you can learn in terms of understanding the world because a lot of sects in a religion, SECTS /cults, will be running on a particular view of the world, the circumstances, religion or whatever that will only always fall into a category of traditional human thinking. And when you look at that particular way of thinking, you can see others in contrast. So you might get an understanding against your view of Marxism or of capitalism or of humanism or psychology. So there's an education that you'll get by focusing a lot on your own particular groove. Now, it's when your groove doesn't produce what you think it will and your vision fails or what you believe in doesn't turn out to be valid, you'll learn even more because you can still compare the failures of what you were in against all those other things that you've been looking at, and you'll see those other things in an entirely different light. So my cult was a fundamental Christian one.
Sect
was a fundamental Christian one. And one of our enemies was communism, Marxism. Now, I'm not a communist, but I believe there's a lot of validity in the Marxist point of view against capitalism, raw capitalism. So you can come out of something with an education of sorts.
Well, 12 years is a good run, Mully. You put your heart and soul in it.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it.
Good on you.
There's a whole lot of other things you got out of it. I had to step up into leadership roles. I did public speaking. Believe it or not, I was a preacher there for a while.
No, unlike you.
You got to step up in front of an audience and say something that you think is valid. It may not be, but you still believe it. And, that means that there's growth. You have to prepare. You have to speak well. You can put that to good use post.
And we got onto that because...
Well, I don't know.
You don't know. We're lost. As always.
So we had the rambling bit at the end instead of at the start.
We haven't finished yet. I just want to inform listeners that I mentioned on it last week that we've got a few other things coming along that we're working on, Keith and I. We're pretty excited by it. It's just taken a little bit longer than we thought, but as it gets nearer to it coming to fruition, we will let you know. I'm mega excited, and Keith, he's... I don't know.
Excited.
Excited. There you go. He's
but
excited.
The mega is coming.
It's going to be mega. For sure. Well, Keith, I think we got into it early. We didn't go onto our little spiel. I think we will get back to our format next week. So, as always, the sad part coming to each episode. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, well, be careful what sects and cults that you fall into, folks. They're not all that they're cracked up to be, and always keep an eye on the back door that you can get out. How's that for last words? The failure of ours ended up headlines on the national newspaper here in Australia, and there's a big article in Penthouse magazine. And, of course, as I said, it was a fundamental Christian sect, and I had to swallow my morals at the time and go along and buy a Penthouse magazine to read this article exposing all that we had done and failed in. And, of course, Penthouse magazine has other attractions besides well-written articles. But I closed a blind eye. I do have a joke on that. There was Catholic boys' school, and the priest said, boys, today for geography, we're going down the beach and we're going to be studying the formation and the strata of the rocks that you can see. All right, Father. So all the boys lined up and they followed the father down the headland track towards the beach. And as they got towards the sand, the priest up the front could see a young woman there sunbaking topless, and it was alongside of the track that led to the rocks, so they couldn't avoid going past this woman. The priest turned around and warned the boys that the young lady was there in such unclad state. And he said, boys, he said, don't look. He said, if you look, God will strike you blind. And one wag up the back put his hand over one eye, and he said to his mate, I think I'll risk one eye.
I think that would probably be me too.
And anyway, he's still got both of them.
Mate.
Goodbye, folks. We love you listening and tuning in. Don't forget to share, subscribe and like. And so until next time, hooroo.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Don't Get Me Started with Keith and Lee. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Don't Get Me Started, jump onto our socials, follow us on Instagram at Lethal and Mully, Facebook and LinkedIn. If you would like to be a part of the show, email us on don'tgetmestarted2024@gmail.com. Until next time.